My name is Nina. I am 16 years old. I come from a simple, hard-working family. My father owns a small grocery store, my mother is a homemaker, and I have a younger brother who still believes in superheroes. Like most girls my age, I had big dreams. I wanted to study hard, ace my exams, and become a heart surgeon. I carried my family's hopes on my shoulders, and I was determined not to let them down. But behind every bright hope, there can be a shadow. For me, that shadow appeared in the form of private tuition. In our community, after-school tutoring is seen as essential. Parents believe it's the only way to secure a good future. My parents, wanting the best for me, enrolled me with Mr. Future Sixton Yuho Evans, a highly recommended tutor in our district. He had a reputation for getting results, and parents spoke of him with respect, trusting him completely with their children. On my first day, I walked into his tutoring center, my notebooks clutched tightly to my chest. I was nervous but hopeful. The room was small, lined with bookshelves and educational posters. About 10 other students sat at desks. Mr. Evans, a man in his late 40s with tidy gray hair and wire-framed glasses, greeted me with a warm smile. "Ah, you must be Nina," he said. "I've heard you're a very promising student. Please sit here in the front." His words made me feel proud and seen. I thought, this is it. This is my chance to really excel. For the first week, everything was normal. He taught math and science with clarity. He often praised my quick answers, saying things like, "Excellent, Nina," "Sharp mind," or "You're going to make your family so proud." I swelled with pride at his approval, but slowly I began to notice small, unsettling things. When other students answered, he gave a simple nod. When I spoke, his gaze lingered. When I handed him my work, his fingers would brush against mine, a touch that felt deliberate, not accidental. Sometimes he'd ask me to stay behind after the others left. "This concept is tricky," he'd say. "Let me explain it to you privately." At first, I believed him. I was there to learn, but soon the private lessons shifted. He began asking personal questions. "Nina, do you have a special friend at school?" Or, "You are a very lovely girl. Do the boys in your class notice you?" His questions made my skin crawl. I would look down at my desk and mumble, "No, sir. Can we please focus on the lesson?" He would just chuckle softly. "You're shy now, but you'll understand one day. A girl like you has more to offer the world than just good grades." His words felt wrong. They made me feel small and dirty. Dread began to coil in my stomach every afternoon. One evening, after the last student had gone, he called me to his desk again. My feet felt like lead, but I was afraid to be rude, so I stayed. He sat too close. The smell of his cologne was overpowering. "Nina," he said, his voice dropping to a low, confidential tone. "You are special, different from the rest. If you show me affection, I can make everything easy for you. Top grades. A recommendation for any college. I can shape your future. You just have to trust me." My heart hammered against my ribs so hard I thought it would break. I felt trapped in my own body. I couldn't speak. I just stared at the grain of the wooden desk, wishing I could disappear into it. That night, I didn't sleep. His words, "Show me affection," echoed in the dark. I was 16. I knew what he meant wasn't about kindness. It was a transaction, and I was the currency. I felt sick. The next day at the tutoring center, I was a ghost. I sat in the back, kept my head down, answered in monosyllables. I thought if I made myself invisible, he would lose interest. I was wrong. He became bolder. He found reasons to lean over my desk, his breath on my neck. He'd smile at me in a way that felt possessive. His accidental touches became more frequent. A hand on my shoulder as he passed. A finger tracing a line on my notebook, too close to my hand. One afternoon, he whispered, "You look even prettier when you're flustered, Nina. You should smile for me." I forced the corners of my mouth up, a hollow, terrified gesture. I wasn't smiling for him. I was smiling because I was afraid of what would happen if I didn't. The fear became a constant companion. It stole my sleep and my concentration. My grades at my actual school began to slip. My teachers were concerned. My friends asked why I was so quiet. At home, my mother noticed the dark circles under my eyes. "Sweetheart, is everything okay with Mr. Evans? Is the tutoring helping?" she asked one night. The truth sat on my tongue, bitter and heavy. But fear of not being believed, fear of causing trouble, fear of his retaliation slammed my mouth shut. "It's fine, Mama," I whispered. "I'm just tired." But it wasn't fine. The pressure was building like a storm inside me. Then came the day he asked everyone to leave except me. The final bell had rung. "Nina, stay. We need to discuss your progress," he said, his voice leaving no room for argument. The other students filed out, throwing me curious glances. The door clicked shut, and the room felt suddenly cavernous and airless. He walked over and sat on the edge of my desk, looking down at me. "You have so much potential, Nina," he said softly. "But potential needs guidance. I can open every door for you, but I need something in return. I need you to be close to me. Do you understand?" I shook my head violently, tears springing to my eyes. "Please, sir, I just want to learn, that's all." He leaned in closer. "You're scared now, but you'll see. You need me." His words were no longer a suggestion. They were a threat wrapped in a promise. That was the breaking point. In that moment, I knew silence was my enemy. If I stayed quiet, he would own a piece of me forever. I remembered my father's words, spoken years ago when I was scared of the dark. "Nina, monsters grow in silence. Bring them into the light." That night, I cried until I had no tears left. Then I made a decision. I would speak. Telling my parents was the hardest thing I have ever done. After dinner, my hands trembling in my lap, I took a breath that felt like it might be my last. "Papa, Mama, I need to tell you something about the tutoring." Their faces softened with concern. "What is it, darling?" my mother asked. And then it all came out. In a halting, tearful rush, I told them about the lingering looks, the private chats, the touching, the whispered words, the trapped feeling, the demand for affection. I showed them the monster I had been carrying alone. The silence that followed was profound. My father's knuckles turned white where he gripped the arm of his chair. My mother's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes wide with horror, then filled with a fierce, protective love. She pulled me into a hug so tight, it felt like she was trying to squeeze the fear right out of me. My father stood up, his voice a low, dangerous rumble. "That man will never lay eyes on you again." The next morning, they took me to the police station. I was terrified of the process, of the questions, of not being believed. A female officer sat with me. Her voice was gentle. "Just tell me what happened, Nina. Take your time." So, I did. I recounted every uncomfortable moment, every violation, every sleepless night. The officer listened, her face a mask of calm professionalism, but I saw the anger in her eyes. "You are incredibly brave," she said when I finished. "By speaking, you may have protected other girls." An investigation began. At first, there was shock in the community. "Mr. Evans? Impossible. He's such a good teacher." Some even implied I had misunderstood or, worse, invited his attention. The whispers hurt almost as much as the original betrayal. But the police were thorough. They spoke to other past and present students. Slowly, quietly, other stories emerged. Stories of uncomfortable compliments, of being asked to stay late, of a pattern of behavior hidden behind a respectable facade. He was arrested. I saw it on the local news. There he was, being led from his tutoring center in handcuffs. I felt no victory, only a profound, weary relief. The monster was in the light. The court case was an ordeal. I had to stand and recount my story again, this time in a room full of strangers, with him sitting across from me. My voice shook, but my father held my hand under the table, an anchor in the storm. My mother's unwavering gaze gave me strength. We were a fortress. Months later, the verdict came. He was found guilty of harassment, exploitation of a minor, and abuse of a position of trust. The judge called his actions a profound and calculated betrayal of the sacred duty of an educator. He was sentenced to prison. Justice was served, but healing was a slower journey. The nightmares took time to fade. Sometimes, the smell of a certain cologne or the sound of a certain tone of voice would send me right back to that small, book-lined room. But with my family's unwavering love and support, I began to rebuild. I went back to my studies, not for him, not for anyone else, but for me. My father was right. I couldn't let that man steal my dreams, too. Education became my armor and my sword. I studied with a fierce determination, not just to get good marks, but to reclaim the power he had tried to take from me. Now, when I look back, I don't see a victim, I see a survivor. That first encounter with betrayal did not break me. It revealed a strength I didn't know I possessed. So this is my message to every young person, every parent, every teacher, to the young person feeling trapped in silence. Your voice is your power. What is happening to you is not your fault. Find one person you trust and tell them you are not alone. To every parent, listen. Really listen to your children. Create a space where they know they will be believed, not blamed. Their safety is more important than reputation or tuition fees. To every educator, you hold a sacred trust. You are shaping minds and hearts. That trust is not a license. It is a profound responsibility. Guard it with your integrity. What happened to me was about the abuse of power, not about tutoring or education itself. Education is still the key, but it must happen in spaces of safety and respect. Silence protects the predator. Courage protects the future. My story is not just mine anymore. I share it so that maybe, for someone else feeling alone and scared in the dark, it can be a small guiding light. Do not let fear write your story. You have the right to speak. You have the right to be safe. And you have the power, incredible power, to rise.